Hello, protocols, packets, and programs. Last week, I lamented that Hacker Summer Camp is over, but it is not forgotten. This week, we're running some interviews that our Security Weekly friends conducted at BlackHat. We've got Agentic AIs, MCPs, and APIs with Salt Security. How AI assistants impact developer velocity and secure code with Apiro. Avoiding AI agony and risks with GitLab. A little more AI and a lot more network defense with Zero Networks. Thanks to Doug White, Jackie McGuire, and Matt Alderman for chatting with these industry folks. And thank you for sticking with us and keeping up with every episode. We'll be back soon with Application Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show to learn the latest tools and techniques to understand DevOps, applications, and the cloud. Your trusted source for the latest AppSec news. It's time for Application Security Weekly. Security Weekly and CyberRisk TV are headed back to one of the biggest identity security events of the year, Octane 2025, put on by Okta, live September 24th through 26th from the vibrant city of Las Vegas. Octane 2025 brings together the best minds in identity, security, and technology innovation. And this year, we're pumping up the volume. Security Weekly will be on-site in full force, with Mandy Logan and Adrian Sanabria leading the charge. Get ready for a live-streamed executive interviews, exclusive on-site editorial coverage from SC Media, and brand new this year, a live-streamed episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. It's your chance to engage with identity leaders, dive into the future of AI security, and hang out with your favorite Security Weekly hosts. And here's the best part. Security Weekly listeners get an exclusive discount. Just head to securityweekly.com/octane, register, and use promo code OKTNSCMA25 to get your conference pass for $200. See you there. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock.
Hello.
Don't you love live TV? Because you just never know what's going to happen, and you're not going to know, unfortunately, because you're not here. But welcome to BlackHat 2025 again with me. We're still here. We're still recording live from the CyberRisk TV studio in the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which is a famous hotel in Las Vegas. I'm Doug White, and this time joining me for an interview is Michael Callahan, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Salt Security.
Yes.
Hi, Michael. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting. I was really pleased to see that you were on my list because some of the stuff you're doing is very interesting to me.
Some of it, not all of it, just some of it. Thanks. That's great.
Well, there was that thing you guys did last year, but no.
Yeah, that one thing.
Yeah, it was bad.
Well, so let's talk about the stuff you think's interesting.
No, okay. So, I mean, the term agentic AI came up to me. I mean, this was in your notes, and I like that term so much, but I know some people hate it, but I like it because it sounds so evil.
It does.
You know, it's like agentic AI. You know, it's like, yes, Mr. Bond.
Like Galactic or something with Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like
agentic
James
AI,
Bond.
I like
Bond.
that.
Yes,
yeah. That's what we're doing. Our whole theme this year is going to be around James Bond.
Well, that would it sounds like that. It's actually like virtual James Bond at a like micro level.
Yes.
Because when I started reading this thing, I got actually really, really scared.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you should be scared too, because as I started, I had not thought about, I've thought a lot about supply chain, let me tell you. I've been thinking about supply chain problems since like 1986, because I was like, that guy's not a great coder. You know, he sends me code modules for this code. I'm the systems analyst. His code sucks. I hate it. But if he slips it by me, So there was an early chip supply chain problem. Today, of course, this has become crazy.
It's crazy.
And when I started reading this stuff, I had not thought about what you guys were working on.
Yeah.
where we now have commonality across this agentic AI stuff, which means that these agents, I mean, I get why you would want that.
Yeah, no, it's a super bit, like it's the productivity, the improvements to business, the value is crazy. I mean, it's way out there. The risk is, it's like 100x of what it was before. And like the way that I've explained or how I think about it, you have this agent, and just think you have just this one agent, and you say, how's my business doing? Right? You just ask the agent that. Simple question. Well, before, you would have to go like almost individually to different data sources. You might go to the internet. You might go to your Salesforce. You might go to your business, whatever.
Stack
business
Overflow.
Whatever. I mean, you'd go to like whatever could you could even go to like, how am I perceived in the media, right? Like because that's part of how your business is doing. Right. But so there could be you too. I mean, like you could have an agent that does this. And what happens now is, so you would have to do that individually. Now this agent talks to, what goes along with agentic AI is this MCP server, right? So it kind of sits in the middle as a broker. The key thing, at least for us and what we think for security in general, is all of this communication is done through APIs. So when you say, hey, I'd like to know, like, what do people think about me in the press, or how's my business doing? That it sends an API call to an MCP server, which then goes to all of the different data sources. So you could imagine like this just explosion of like API traffic that goes and finds something and then brings it back and then gives you an answer. The risk there is ridiculous. So people setting up like shadow MCP servers, or the data may be getting pulled back that shouldn't, right? So maybe you say, like, you ask that and it pulls back some like user account or some credit card information or something, and it goes back to the agent. All of that is API traffic, and all of it are areas of risk. It's an enormous issue, and that's just one agent. Imagine if
absolutely.
I want to deploy 50 agents to help my business.
This is what got me scared, because I wasn't familiar with model context protocol. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I was and I wasn't. I didn't know the term until I started reading your notes, and I know I had to do some reading, because I was like, okay, I'm not 100% on this. I didn't know what this thing was, and I understand the concept, but this works in all directions. Because this is a standardization, right? So the model context protocol means that my agent can talk to your agent, can talk to their agents over there.
That's right.
And that all flows through this MCP server.
That's right.
And that acts as a sort of central clearinghouse with a standardized language. So now,
because it's a protocol. I mean, that's
right.
the PM
So
protocol.
my agent may speak my language, but they go down to this central hub and everybody chatters, and they may dispatch other agents off in 100,000 directions.
So it's like that. I mean, there was years ago, I don't know if everybody remembers it, but there was this, I remember this commercial was just brilliant, where it was like, I told one friend and they told one friend. And it just goes like crazy. That's exactly what's happening here. That MCP server, it really is, it's an API broker, but it's going to, who knows, dozens, hundreds, possibly thousands of sources, and then bringing back all that information. And it's all risky, right? It's all like, maybe the intent is almost always good, unless you're a bad guy kind of starting it all. The intent's almost always good, but what comes back, it could have all kinds of sensitive information.
Well, yeah, the analogy I used for it, I told two people, and you told. I have another one. It's an old cartoon. I could not remember. I'm gonna have to get an AI to tell me which cartoon it is. But like, the judge says guilty, and all the reporters come running out of the courtroom and run into the phone booth, and all the boxes. And of course, half of you don't even know what a phone booth is. But the whole phone booth falls over because they've all run in there to make quick calls.
Yeah.
And then all that goes to the media, and then all the media outlets start printing stories about it. And one's saying guilty, one's saying not guilty, one's saying lies, and one's saying something completely different. And so and the other analogy I would bring up to ask you if you think this is legit is DNS poisoning, because this is like that, right?
Well, because you have that central point.
That's what I mean. There's this place, and there's a ton of small traffic going there, and then it dispatches in all kinds of directions. And if that one central point was compromised, really, really bad things would happen.
And that's where, like, what we're seeing is, so what's someone going to attack? They're going to attack where they can be the most efficient. Well, these MCP servers, they have very little security around them. And what's happening is people are spinning these up. So internally, people might spin them up, and they're kind of called shadow MCP servers. We have the same thing with shadow APIs. But they can spin up shadow MCP servers. Other people could be spinning these up. Like, you could spin one up that's for a very popular application, and people think it's legitimate. And so you just have your agent call that MCP server, but it's not legitimate. And now you're sharing all this information back, and it's chaos is what it is. You've
So
got
while
to find a way.
technically not the same, it's a lot like DNS poisoning.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because that may. I'm sorry. I'm just using you as a way for me to make better lectures.
That's right.
But I mean, if I can give an analogy of that to students, that would be one way I would talk about it, because they would immediately understand. If I said DNS poisoning, a lot of my students would go, "Oh, I know what that means,"
Yeah,
and
it is
it would
good.
be bad, right? Because they probably may have experienced it. And if you type in, "I want to go to Babcock High School," and BabcockHighSchool.com actually redirects you to a graphic pornography site, that's middle school prank 101 kind of stuff with DNS poisoning on a very local basis. So
it's very similar. And I think what's also like one of the things that it's kind of mind blowing, at least to me, I think, is you have to have some sort of control over the data that's moving between the agent, the MCP server, the data source, whatever. You have to have some kind of control to know, am I in policy or not? Because that LLM, it's not like a goldfish, right? Goldfish have no memory, right? Or short memory. The LLM, if you were to say, hey, what is, can you find Doug's compensation, right? It goes and it brings you that back. But then what if someone else asked it? It can't forget it, right? It would be able to give it to you, right? So the issue is like all of that data that's moving all over, it's all encompassed in an API, but it's all very sensitive data, and you've got to have some kind of control over it. And right now, it reminds me of like evidence security for 20 plus years. In the early days, it's exactly like it was before, where the business is moving faster than security. And there were some issues that happened in the last 10, 15, 20 years because of that. This, I feel, is even way worse because of the speed, right? Like it's ridiculous how fast it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a good question. So if someone's a CISO, and most of us, like you said, we worked in the security field. We've all been there where the CEO or somebody calls us and says, I want this. I want it rolled out by Friday. We're getting it. This is going to be part of our new corporate image. So when the CEO calls down and says, we are rolling out Agentic AI and these MCP servers and all this whole full-featured set to vastly improve our business model, and it's going in place next month, what's the CISO supposed? What's your first move? Quit.
Yeah, right. I mean, that may be long run the better answer, but it's like, I mean, the answer should always be, I think, is yes. Now let's figure it out, right? And then be able to present the risks, right? So to say, hey, we could do this, but understand we will have we will be opening ourselves up to risk, and it could be risks of not being compliant. We may be like not compliant with whatever industry regulation we may be part of, and maybe that's acceptable risk. Or maybe there's risk with, if we do this, we are going to have, we're going to open ourselves up to attack because we can do like an API world. It's like a Ebola attack, right? Like we will be open to that. We'll have no protection on it. Should we do it or not? What I'd like to see is that CISO is more educated on this, so they can present the risks, and then you can just make a decision. You can make it, it's a risk decision more than like a yes/no decision. It's risk-based. But I think in this area, like we're talking with a lot of people now, and they're looking to us like, help us understand what to do. And like we'll show people like, here, this is what your environment looks like, and we found 4 MCP servers. And their eyes will be like, oh, thank God, thank you. Like we had no idea. And that is like tip of the iceberg stuff of what's going on. But right now I think people are at the point where they just want to know just help me a little bit. Help me figure out what I have. Just tell me what I have. And maybe if there's any sort of like policy issues before even like what's the big risk to the business. I think that happens a lot with any kind of new technology is just help me understand it first. And that's where we are. And as we talk with people, they're like, okay, that's good. That gives us at least something to go on.
Well, I started thinking of a term for what I wanted to ask you next last night, and I'm calling it the radioactive supply chain, because I was thinking about radioactive elements emit particles, right? They're just constantly spitting these particles out, and that's how you detect radioactive material. And one of my grave concerns about supply chain stuff in general is all these APIs, we build this big stack. And now each layer of this stack is an API referring to an API referring to an API, but each of these APIs can in turn refer to other APIs that are embedded in that API that are just being thrown off. Well, each of these layers and all of these sub-layers and these branches and leaves and whatever could be emitting, I'm using a radioactive term, emitting agentic AI
Sure.
gather information using this model.
Yeah.
How does somebody get a grasp of my greatest fear is this giant stack of code, and how do I pull that in and manage it?
Yeah, so we struggled with that too, because you want to be able to understand it but communicate it, and what we came up with was this concept of an API fabric. So what you just talked about, those the radioactive particles being dispersed, it would, in this analogy, it would create a fabric, right? So every organization has a fabric. Some of it's more dense, some of it's less, but every organization has it, and that fabric is made up of all of these little API communications. So you want to be able to say, in my fabric, where are my APIs? Do I have any? Are they zombie? Are they shadow? People move really fast, so sometimes they just leave things out there unintentionally, right? It's not like they put it out there so that you can be breached. But where are they? And if they are zombie or shadow, let's shut them off. So you have this fabric. You're looking at where do I have APIs? But then, are there places where I'm in or out of policy? You've got to know that as well. And then ultimately, am I being attacked somewhere? So I think like in your example of the radioactivity, it's a great visual because you could see that, like those particles being split up
pulsing
everywhere,
out of there.
and you want to know where they are. And so the thing you want to do, because like the APIs, it's what powers the agents. That's it. If you didn't have the APIs, the agents wouldn't do anything. They need that. So as you're pushing all these points out, you just want to know. You just want to know about them. You want to know where they are. You want to know if they're doing something
How
right.
sparkly is your fabric?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, it's like,
that's right.
Because I mean, I was scared of API before I even started thinking about agentic AI in APIs.
Yeah.
And the more I read about this, the more frightened I got, because like I said, I was scared of supply chain in 1986. I'm way more scared of it today, because now it's completely beyond my control. Now I don't just have to say, John added a module. I have to say, oh wow, the AI is adding modules, the employees are adding modules.
And nobody can keep that straight. Like there's no way you can keep all that in your head. Like, oh yeah, I remember this person or this agent's supposed to talk to this one or that one. Oh, I should put a control here. There's no way that anybody can keep that
just
straight.
As an exercise for a class I was putting together, so it's total dev.
Yeah.
I just was like, I'm gonna try to write an SBOM for this.
Okay.
It was impossible. I mean, just when I started looking at, I added my template for Python, and I've got all these modules, and I added these libraries and those libraries and these pips, and I was like, okay, now I got to go to each one of those things, and there weren't that many. I mean, compared to like real productive stuff, production stuff, and even then, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna open this one. I'm gonna go. Oh wait, there's 12 libraries listed there. Yeah. And now I need to go to each one of those 12 libraries. Before I even got through the first few I had listed, I had this huge list of things, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening with all of these AI agents. They're creating more and more and more, and as you give them the permission to do things autonomously, then you really don't know, right? Then because you didn't anticipate it, it's kind of learning or thinking, right? And it's doing something you didn't plan for it to do. You've got to be able to understand. Like we keep coming back to, like, of all the different scenarios where we come back to these three like pieces of, you've got to know where they are. You have to know if they're adhering or out of policy, because you have to know where to focus. Because if you use your example you just said, or the radioactive example, if you've got 5,000 points out there, you can't start at one and then figure out okay, that one's okay, that one's okay, that's okay. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? You never end.
And it may change immediately.
It totally could. So
I got through the first 5 and the first 2 changed.
So you've got to have some way to say oh, these are the ones that are really risky or not, and look at those, and then be able to see the last piece of it is anything being attacked? Because the way that attacks happen, that will happen now, it's not like it's not like someone sends you an email and you click on an attachment anymore. Right. These type of attacks, they go through most security solutions undetected because they look legitimate, right? Like if you say, hey, give me someone's passport information because I'm checking it for a flight, it's going to look legitimate. But if you say, okay, give me someone's passport information, and you change their name because their name's like a unique, some sort of identifier, and you change it by one character, it still looks legitimate. Why not, right? You gave me this one, why can't you give me the next one in line, and the next one, and the next one? And that's how the breach happens. Nobody can keep all that stuff straight.
And it's so fast, it's beyond comprehension.
Yeah, it speeds right past you.
That's okay. Now I'm scared, so I'll have something to worry about. I'll have something to worry about the rest of the time I'm here.
Some water.
I'm just going to put my retirement accounts on double zeros on the roulette wheel, because it's all over anyway. Well, thank you, Michael Callahan, for joining us today. If you want to find out more about Salt Security, and you should, I think, please visit securityweekly.com/saltbh. For all the rest of our Black Hat 2025 coverage by CyberRisk Alliance, please visit securityweekly.com/blackhat. Thank you, Michael. It was great being here. The rest of you stick around because we'll be back with another interview and a wrap up and all kinds of fun things here in sunny Las Vegas, where I think it's about a balmy 102 degrees right now. So it's hot. Lovely. See ya.
Hey, welcome back to Black Hat 2025. We're here recording from the CyberRisk TV studios at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas live. I'm your host, Jackie McGuire, and joining me today is Idan Plotnick. He's co-founder and CEO of Apiro. Welcome, Idan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I'm really excited because you actually have a pretty awesome background. So you were director of engineering at Microsoft, right? So you were formerly CEO of Erato and were acquired by Microsoft, and you became director of engineering. What was the onus behind starting Apiro? What did you see that made you want to start a new company?
So basically, this is my third one, but it's just a pain that I felt while trying to deliver code faster, and all these guardrails and the manual processes and like risk assessment questionnaires before you release code to production and all these siloed scanners that are bombarding you with so many alerts without any context. And I just wanted to move faster, and
I imagine a company
that's it. This is this is the short answer.
So my favorite fortune cookie I've ever gotten said, "If you have a difficult task, give it to a lazy man. He'll find an easier way to do it." And I was like, "It's me. I'm the lazy man. I'm both impatient and lazy, so I'm always looking for faster, more efficient ways to do things." Awesome. So you guys shared this crazy statistic with me that by 2028. 75% of engineers will be using some type of AI coding assistant.
Yeah. I think that it's coming so fast. By the way, you saw, I think 2 weeks ago, Citibank publicly announced 40,000 developers using AI code assist. So if based on the statistics, we see 3 to 4x more commits for every developer, this is a tsunami that is coming, and we are not ready.
And you were saying you guys did a study where more commits, but fewer pull requests, right?
Yes. So this is a research that we did on a Fortune 20 company, 7,000 developers, and only 6 AppSec engineers. They started using...
This is fine. This is fine.
But they're automating a lot.
Okay.
And they started using GitHub Copilot, and we actually saw an interesting pattern where every pull request has much more code in it. And you see like the graph of commits going up, the graph of a pull request going down, and 10x more vulnerabilities. So it means, and these are not tightly coupled. So it means that the code is more complex. It's harder to read and review because the pull request is much longer and with a lot of code. And on top of that, the AI coding assistant is bringing unvetted, ungoverned dependencies and libraries, and it repeats the same errors that in the history of the code base. So you just have more vulnerabilities, and the AppSec team doesn't grow. So you cannot break the law of physics. This is how do you solve it? If you cannot hire more people and you have more code, much more complex, you don't have anyone to review it, and more vulnerabilities.
Yeah. I think people want to believe that code is more objective than it really is. And there's always that joke that if you ask 3 engineers how to fix a problem, you'll get 5 answers because there really is no one way to code.
100%.
And we were talking before, and in addition to all these dependencies and libraries that are unvetted, a lot of them are also unnecessary. So I hosted ChainGuard's conference at the beginning of the year, and they specialize in these kind of like minimized hardened containers and things. And it wasn't really until I started looking at these like minimized, I was like, you know what? When I was a data scientist, they didn't teach us what the trade-off was between importing and installing packages and dependencies and security.
Yeah.
It was just like import and install, pip install everything you could possibly need in your Jupyter notebook, and then roll from there. And when I joined my first company and pushed code, I don't really think anybody was rolling back a lot of those dependencies. They were just putting them in the container.
I see what you're saying. Apiro serves 15% or more than Fortune 500 companies. Okay? I see exactly what you're saying.
Even
as
these
a pattern
companies?
in every big company. The problem is so big. And I'm just saying AI code assistant is just amplifying the problem. The same problem that you are talking about. Now, you said something interesting. Everyone thinks about this from a security or vulnerability standpoint. But it's not only that. You have an attack surface. Attack surface, as your attack surface is bigger, then you have more options to attack. Even if you don't have a specific vulnerability, you have misconfigurations or other unsecure code that might not be directly tied to a SQL injection, okay? So as you said, more dependencies, more libraries, more APIs. We see a huge growth in APIs, and you don't need them. And it's just expanding the attack surface.
It's expensive too. If you're running 10, 15x what you need in a container, your cloud costs are higher. It's everything about it is broken, but how do we fix it?
We didn't talk about this.
We didn't.
Right?
No, we didn't talk about cloud
this.
costs before.
Literally, a CISO yesterday told me that one of their biggest problem that the CIO was handling cloud cost because of a problem of APIs, and they didn't know how to tie it back to the code. So the same MO, the same technology of inventory your code assets and matching them to runtime will help solve vulnerabilities, reduce the risk, but also costs. And C-levels need to understand that it's not now a security thing. Because
CISOs need to understand that, because CISOs are usually horrible at tying the work they do to revenue. That is one of the things that I've found over and over and over in the enterprise, is that because CISOs tend to be very focused on security, they're not necessarily the best politicians, and they'll say things like operational risk. Nobody in your C-suite cares about operational risk, but if you say, had we been non-operational, here's the revenue cost, everybody starts paying attention. So if you can tie what you're doing to saving costs or increasing revenue as a CISO, it's a lot easier to get somebody to write that 7-figure check.
So I cannot say it better, okay? And I think that the fundamental problem is not only that the CISO thinks, how to mitigate or reduce risk. They don't have the data.
Yeah.
Everyone starts with an inventory. AppSec never, ever, I'm 24 years in cyber, never, I didn't got a requirement from a CISO, hey, let's start with an inventory. And if you don't have an inventory, what do? You put tools, okay? And then the tools creates a lot of noise, and then you cannot tie the code asset to the vulnerability, to the business application. And if you cannot tie these together, you don't know how much money this business application generates to the business. And TLDR, data.
That's my favorite. So I say TLDR all the time. People are like, what? And I'm like, get on Reddit, bro. You never heard of Reddit? So I actually, when I have two different, I'll write a white paper like a regular analyst, but what I prefer to write is this thing called an info dump. It's like a 2-page infographic, because millennials don't have more than an 8.5-second attention span. And down the corner, the column, I put TLDR, because I know that 90% of people are only going to read that part. So how does Apiro help? I obviously you're biased because you founded the company, but if I'm a CISO and I'm like, well, you just scared the crap out of me. Well, I also pause. I want to go back to the API thing, because you were saying AI is just Python and APIs, right? That's all AI is. And to your point with APIs, we now have all these data scientists using APIs. And if you don't know how to pull the specific things you want from the API, you pull this massive, and I would guess that's what was happening, is they had people pulling just the general APIs. So you're getting all of the information, not just what you need. And again, now you're holding information that you don't know the value of, you don't know the risk of. So I guess if I'm a CISO and now I'm like, great, I'm not going to sleep tonight, what do I do?
So first and foremost, I don't believe personally, and this is the culture in Apiro, I'm not going to use FUD, okay, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt to sell you something, okay? I am a business enabler. This is my role. I need your business to grow, because if you will be successful, we will be successful.
You have more money to spend at Apiro.
First and foremost, yes, but to solve real problems and protect applications and code, because this is what drives our lives every day. Now, from that to the practice, the practice is that we are telling to the CISOs, when we get in, we build an inventory. And this is the deep code analysis patent and technology that we developed. So what we are doing, we connect to your source control manager via API, read-only API. We translate code into assets. Okay, so like, what is an API? What is an AI model? What is a data model? What is authorization, authentication, and on and on and on. We connect it on a graph, and we tie ownership to each code asset. So we know that you developed this API when, and I changed the business logic of the API 3 months later. So we track the material changes.
We create an audit trail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the foundation. When you have that, bring on any tool that you want. You want to use our scanners, we don't care. You want to use your scanners, great. But then we will take the vulnerabilities. We will tie them on these code assets or software architecture, and we will enrich context from ServiceNow, from Akamai, from runtime, from code to runtime. And we'll tell you, you have 500 vulnerabilities. Only 3 of them are with high business impact that you need to fix now. Who should fix this? We will tell you, and we will trigger the auto fix automatically with all this context for the developers.
And just, you said it, but just to make sure that if anybody's out looking, so it's called the AutoFix AI agent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what we are saying, and this is why we worked with these Fortune 500 companies to develop it, they said, if you need to fix code, you cannot look at the code only. So all the AutoFix out there, they look at code. We look at the design, feature request, specs. Then we look at the inventory. Then we look at your vulnerabilities. Then we look at your organizational security policies. And then we look at your runtime controls and where do you deploy and who is using it and what's the traffic. And when you combine these together, the magic happens.
Yeah.
You can fix design risks with context, and you can fix the code. And one fix in one application will look differently. Like, you have the same vulnerability in app 1, in app B, the fix will look different in these 2 apps. And I'm not talking about different organizations versus a generic AI code assist or generic code, fix solution will generate a generic fix, and it will not be contextualized to your organization.
Yeah, and then you just have to decide to ship with one vulnerability, because fixing that vulnerability means rewriting this part of the code base, and one of the co-founders wrote that, so that's not okay, right? We've seen that.
But I will add 2 more things just to complete the picture. Yeah. Just to fix things is not good enough. Why? Because you need to auto-govern what you are writing or what the AI coding assistant. So you need to automatically govern it, and you need to auto-manage the risk lifecycle. Because in org 1, the developer can wait 3 weeks until someone will have a risk acceptance because they don't understand and they are the upper management. So we track and measure from the IDE seamlessly, like connecting through our MCP server. After we calculate and we say, this is a risk, and this is how you fix it, and you need to get a risk acceptance for that, we automatically trigger the process in ServiceNow or other places.
So and generate the tickets.
Yeah, but we also keep you accountable. Not because I'm a developer, I need to meet my goals for this sprint. I you cannot stop me as an executive or a risk owner from delivering this code faster. So we also keep you accountable, the risk owner, okay, and say you have an SLA. You have an SLA of 2 hours to accept the risk. If not, you can, by the way, you can say that you do not accept, but you need to take action. And then we show the full, going back to the roots, what you said, like you need to be a business enabler as a CISO. If you don't have the data, you cannot be a business enabler. So we will tell you how much time from the moment the developer actually committed the code, opened the pull request, ask the risk acceptance, and then we can say, I'm as a developer, as a CTO, I met my SLA or deadline, but the risk, it took them 5 days and they breached the SLA. And this is why we didn't ship the application to production and didn't hit the company goals.
And that gives you leverage to actually make changes in processes when you can demonstrate the inefficiencies.
And this is how you actually transform application security from a cost center to a business enabler through a deep inventory, understanding your software architecture for every change, and connecting it to your environment, to all the systems that you are using. And the developer should never leave the IDE. It needs to be there, interact with the agent. The agent will tell him, hey, the SLA for risk acceptance is 2 days. This person saw it, and then get a response in the IDE.
Awesome. I think that's actually a great punctuation to put on this. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we don't. Idan, thank you so much for joining. This was a fantastic conversation.
I really enjoyed the conversation.
We'll have you back because I think there's a lot more to talk about here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. For live from the CyberRisk TV studios, this is Jackie McGuire. If you'd like to find out more about Apiro, please visit securityweekly/ApiroBH. That's APIIROBH. And for all of our other Black Hat coverage, live and streaming, visit securityweekly/BlackHat. Thanks again, Idan, for joining us. We will be right back with more live coverage. Stick around for Black Hat 2025. Thanks, everybody.
Tired of the endless cycle of cloud vulnerabilities? Avoid over 95% of CVEs with minimal container images from Minimus. No bloated base layers, no unnecessary packages, just what your app needs to run. Drop Minimus images into existing deployments to dramatically reduce your attack surface and remediation work. Maximum security, minimum effort. That's Minimus. Visit securityweekly.com/Minimus to learn more.
Welcome to Black Hat 2025. We're here, still recording live from the CyberRisk TV studio at Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's only 100-ish degrees outside. It's actually not that hot this year. I'm your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me for this interview segment is Josh Lemos. He's the Chief Information Security Officer at GitLab. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about, so you guys did a report with executives, C-suite about AI. Obviously, it's a hot topic. And a lot of conversations we're having with folks here at the event is all somehow strung into AI. I'm curious, some of the highlights from the report, because if I'm an executive, let me preface this a little bit. I'm an executive. We're trying to figure out how to leverage artificial intelligence to speed up business adoption, transformation, innovation, et cetera. I don't care what security says, we're going to do it one way or another, right? Do they really understand the risks of AI? What did you find in your report? Because I'm kind of intrigued.
In our report, we found that people are using AI, right? The security teams know people are using AI, and that is going to fall into a couple of different categories of usage. There is we have embraced AI, we've adopted it, and we're going to use it, and we're going to wrap some governance around it. There's this sort of second category where they have pockets of adoption for different use cases and that can be divided by, part of engineering is using it, or the finance team is using it, or IT is using it in some way. And then there's the people that think they're not using AI, and we call those people generally wrong, right?
Generally wrong.
People are they are incredibly adaptable. The benefits that they're getting in terms of their own productivity is going to outweigh any kind of policy or governance. So when I hear those kinds of themes come out in the report, the question becomes, how do we start to enable those things safely, and how do we provide AI governance around it?
Because I did a very simple test the other day. At my day job, we produce a dashboard. We do a lot of risk quant. I took a screenshot of that dashboard. I sent it to ChatGPT and I said, summarize this dashboard for a chief financial officer. It was highly accurate. It's amazing what you can do with these technologies, which means people are going to find a way to use them,
Absolutely.
right? But did I violate a policy because I went to ChatGPT? Well, you didn't block me at the firewall. Right? So it's really hard to get your arms around this sometimes as an organization. So how do you start the journey of, let's start with AI governance first, from a governance perspective. What do you have to think about when it comes to AI governance? Then I want to get into all right, now what do we do? How do we actually put some security and some guardrails around artificial intelligence usage?
So one of the ways we've thought about AI governance is through the lens of what can we avail that gives us the right level of security assurances, both in the technology and the handling of our data within those tools.
Yeah.
We back a lot of our Duo products with Anthropic Sonnet models, and those are relationships which we built over time, where we had our security requirements built in terms of data retention, data deletion. And then once we did that, to give our customers visibility, we launched our AI Transparency Center. And that allows customers to see for their own adoption how we're using models, what are backing each of the features, and then they can decide, I'm comfortable sharing my data here, I'm not comfortable.
Right.
And it allows them to make decisions. So I think the first step in AI governance is get your visibility, understand what is your relative risk or attack surface, and do that in partnership with those tools and vendors. And the days of AI no, I think are long past us.
Yes. Well, it's kind of like security back in the day of no.
Yeah.
But AI is not going to be a no. It's going to be, we're going to do it and figure out what you can. When you think about transparency and the AI governance stuff, where do certifications fall into the mix? I actually did a segment on Business Security Weekly, a company that went through ISO 42001 certification. Do you see that as part of that kind of transparency trust center, that going through some level of certification around AI is a good thing? Or
I don't see that. Why in third-party risk management do people ask for an ISO 27001, right? They want to know that you at least thought about these problems.
Right.
And I look at 42001 in through the same lens, right?
Yeah.
We are going through 42001. We also have our transparency center, but we want our customers to know we've thought about these problems.
Right.
We have controls in place to manage the risk in accordance with this framework. And so as you think about adoption, you can have at least that level of assurance. Now, don't stop there, right? This is your data.
Yeah.
This is your source code in the case of GitLab. And so we want you to think through how you want to use our features and capabilities, but we're there to provide that transparency so you can adopt it and get the benefits of velocity and that transformation you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. So transparency, now I start to build these things. How do I start to secure these, right? I mean, when you start thinking about this, okay, I've decided that I'm going to leverage AI. I'm going to now use it. I'm going to build an agentic, agentic's the term of the year right now. I'm going to build this agentic bot to go do these things in my business, but building it and then securing it are kind of two different components here, right? And so we were talking earlier today, this kind of hype around vibe coding, right? But vibe coding is not secure coding per se, right? But I could build a bot, I could build code with it, but then securing it, right? And so the same thing, even if I put these governance guardrails in place, I've got these trusts built in, I still need to do some level of guardrail security validation. So what does that look like in an AI world?
So in terms of software development, it doesn't change the fundamentals very much. Code is going to be code. It's generated by an LLM, it's generated by a staff level developer, or it's generated by an intern. It's all going to have to go through a build pipeline of some sort.
Right.
And so our thesis is that as long as you're building code, it should go through the same low friction security checks that you would run on any of your code. It doesn't matter. Like, you could vibe code it, great. Like,
right.
We'll make sure that it's secure. It may not like perform the way you want it to. I don't think that that's really our sort of place as security practitioners to decide what the performance attribute should be.
Yeah.
But we should be there to validate how the code is, what the code at least is making it through the pipeline, that is secured to whatever your base level is for any of your tools. A lot of the agentic workflow stuff, the benefits are not necessarily just in the code generation. It's in all the other tasks. When you go to write a service, what's the first thing you do? You create a repository, you write a README, you do all of these things. Those are sort of low value tasks that you have to do. Where you can start to offload those to the teams, that's a very low risk security activity.
Yeah.
You're going to, create a repo, put some docs together. And like, if you have a good prompt, you might get like hours worth of savings in that. So you can actually get to the thing that you're good at and want to do, which is write the service in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I remember the day where we had document our APIs, right? And Swagger docs. If you can automate those tasks really easily now, hey, there's all the documentation sitting in my repo.
And the second order benefit to that is security teams can then know what those APIs actually do.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be a perfect doc spec to understand. The fact that you have documentation there and you have a sense of what your assets are gets us to that first principle of security, of visibility and observability.
Right. Exactly. We were talking a little earlier about agentic from a task-based perspective, and you said something really interesting. When I build a agent, for me, it does something specific. It's kind of personalized to the individual. However, and this is where I see the value of agentic, but still some challenges, is when you broaden its use case, whether it's multitask and stringing them together or multiple users, like a team usage of that. Talk a little bit about where you see some of the capabilities around agentic going.
Yeah. In our early use cases for agentic, you saw a lot of linearity between the developer IDE and the source code repository, and it was expressing value for an individual developer. Whether that was code generation or code refactoring, those identities sort of traversed on a linear plane, north-south, if you will. Now that we have agentic AI, we're starting to go a little bit more east-west. And so as you deploy MCP servers and you have plurality of agents, you can then start to move in directions that are nonlinear in some sense or fashion, right? Pulling in different inputs, which create new access and design patterns that weren't initially thought of. And the next evolution of that is like, how does that express value at a team level? So where we were first, going kind of north-south, and now we're going east-west, now we have maybe a team performs a certain set of actions. They, have certain rituals around their code review, or they have other practices. And now they're going to have agents that exercise some of those rituals for them, right? Or as a team or as a group. Now, whose identity is that team agent? Is it the service owner? Is it the code owner? Is it the VP of the department? There's some decisions that need to be made around how you think about governing those different agents, who's accountable to those outputs, and then who monitors and manages that estate as you have this sort of cohort.
And especially across multiple teams.
Across multiple teams.
Right? It's easier when you're a smaller startup like I am, and it's one team. But when you're Amazon, it's hundreds of teams, right? And so who owns those and how are they used across different teams could get really interesting, right?
Yeah. I see that as being really the future of where non-human identity comes into play. Sort of how do we think about attribution and then audit trails, right? Because one of the things we want these things to express their velocity benefits. But we also, as security practitioners, want to know what happened and be able to do some root cause analysis when things don't go the way we planned.
Yeah, so let me give you a good example of that, right? So we've been building an agentic AI that logs in and does some very simple things, right? It logs in, it finds settings, it goes in, inventories all the different settings, grabs screenshots, pulls that back so you can analyze your control posture, right? It's a control automation state. The bot does a great job. It does its task. It answers the controls. It's great. Here's the challenge. How do I get CISOs to trust that bot to log into their CRM to actually go perform those tasks? So to get the benefit gains of not doing it manually, you have to build some level of trust. And so therefore you have to know, what's the bot doing? How do I see what it's doing? How do I get an audit trail from it? Because otherwise, you probably don't necessarily trust it, do you?
I think that the question of trust about bots is the one that comes up most often.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of things to consider. We still have our IAM security fundamentals to consider. When you're creating an identity for a bot, if it's only doing all the read actions, you don't need the full suite of CRUD operations. You can say, this is a read-only bot. I know that because it's provisioned in your system to only have read access.
Yeah.
And then, and in your audit logs, you can say these are also attributable in your audit logs to this identity. And this identity happens to be not a human, but something that was instantiated by a human.
Yeah.
And I think that those two controls give you the right level of insight and build trust through that transparency.
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate for 1 second, because I said the same thing. But even with read-only access, I could still exfiltrate a bunch of data from your system through read-only access because I'm grabbing screenshots and I'm pulling that out. How do I know that it only has access to the right parts of the application and not all the other stuff? So in the case of what I'm building for, it's all about automating compliance and configuration settings. But in theory, I also have access to all your clients, all the client contracts. I can screenshot all that too, right? So again, this level of trust, I think, is where we move next.
Yeah. I would ask you, what if that bot, instead of being a bot, was, say, a early in career employee who had just joined your company?
Yep.
What would your security team do if they saw this new employee all of a sudden accessing all these customer records? Would your insider threat program catch that?
Would it catch it?
Right.
Yeah.
We should have those same level of assurances, whether it's human or non-human.
Yeah. So leveraging your existing other tools in the pipeline to monitor these things, even though they're not humans, they're agentic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us.
Matt, it's a pleasure.
To learn more, please visit securityweekly.com/GitLabBH. For all your Black Hat 2025 coverage, please visit securityweekly.com/BlackHat. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay tuned. We're going to do the final wrap up from day one at Black Hat 2025.
Welcome back to BlackHat 2025. We are almost fully caffeinated. We're here live from the CyberRisk TV studios at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Jackie McGuire, and joining me is Chris Boehm. He's the field CTO of Zero Networks. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Did I pronounce your last name properly?
Perfectly.
That is honestly like 80% of getting an interview correct, is not mispronouncing my name during the intro and not mispronouncing your name.
It's common for me, so I totally understand.
Yeah, yeah. My last name is McGuire, and you wouldn't think that would be, but I get McGeary. I get all kinds of weird mispronunciations.
I can see that, though.
I also occasionally mispronounce my own name when I'm like reading too much. All right, so you're a field CTO for Zero Networks.
Yeah.
And I actually have had the pleasure of working with Zero Networks a little bit, so I already know what you guys do. But I thought it would be really good to kind of start out with a little bit of your background. I know you've got over 15 years of experience in tech and how you got to Zero Networks, and then I'll ask another question.
Sure. So, hey, my name is Chris Bain. I have been in the cybersecurity space, obviously, for 15 years. I started in state and local government, one person reporting to the school districts and fun stuff at that point. I joined enterprise, then I joined a small company called Microsoft. I did that for about 7 years. I started an identity to launching multiple products when I left. And then I joined this other small company called SentinelOne. I was there for about 3 years. And
You like startups, huh?
Yeah. And then I went to a brilliant startup called Zero Networks, and that's where I'm at today.
Awesome.
So that's a quick summary.
Yeah, and one of the things that Zero Networks does that until I met the company, I had heard the term before but hadn't really delved into it, but is microsegmentation, and it's becoming increasingly important. So can you explain to me, like I'm in 5th grade, what microsegmentation is?
Yeah, like a 5th grader, huh?
Maybe like a
No, that's 5th grade's fine.
slightly precocious 8th grader.
Okay, so I would imagine microsegmentation like this. Imagine you walk into a bank today, and the first thing you assume, you see the tellers behind the counter. You're like, okay, I need to give them my ID. That's first verification, saying I am who I say I am. Well, I'm trying to pull out something within the bank. I have my own deposit box. So they say, do you have your key? No, I don't have the key. They have a backup key, but they verify again. So a multi-layered process of the bank to get my nuggets, whatever it is, my deeds, whatever information. Microsegmentation is down to that asset level. So verification through each process, like a bank. That's how I would describe it to a 5th grader.
Okay, awesome. So the concept that just because I'm a teller, I don't get access to the big vault. Just because I get access to the big vault, I don't necessarily get access to the safety deposit boxes inside it,
Exactly.
that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So on the average case, most people have been to a bank and they can understand like it's a pain in the butt to go get everything throughout the process, but it is me through the whole entire time verifying I have access. And then, you might have to do a fingerprint scan. You might have to do multiple things of verification along the way, but allows you to segment it down to each asset. So down to my box itself, even though I had to go through a vault door and a teller and even go through the basic security and making sure I'm not acting bad at the bank. So
yeah, and I think when we had our own routers and servers and those types of things, right, then you worried more about the physical barriers and whatnot. But now that everybody's built in the cloud, microsegmentation is really important because one of the things that I found interesting when I started building on AWS as a data scientist is you can just spin things up. Like if you've got credits in AWS, you can start running any services you want with very strict or very lenient security controls. And it seems like with the next wave of, I made it 2 minutes and 3 minutes into the interview before I said AI, with AI becoming, the huge thing that we're all talking about now, that's like exponentially increased, right?
Yeah. I mean, shadow IT is a real thing. I won't deny it. Even when I was at Microsoft, it was a common challenge working with, I was working on the SIM platform and we're pulling data from everything within a tenant. If you look at Microsoft, they're like, well, where are these logs coming from? Oh, your dev team spun up their own test environment and they had no control over it based on how the design was. So shadow IT is a severe thing and it's been getting better, I would say, over time. But when it comes to privilege access and making sure everyone's doing the right thing, it's a multi-layered process. There's no perfect scenario today. And that's why microsegmentation is that not just for cloud, but on-premise and multiple different levels of verification of saying that, I am who I am. And that goes with service accounts and other actions. So it's not just me as a user. I want to make sure that who's accessing my databases is that application and it's authorized to talk to that application. So it's definitely relevant when it comes to the world of our IT industry. So
yeah, and when we think about things like AI, you would think, so microsegmentation is especially helpful in stopping things like lateral movement, right? And so this is this whole concept that if somebody gets into one part of your cloud environment, if it's not secured properly and it's just one big segment, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, you would think that AI would be really effective at stopping things like lateral movement, but we haven't really seen the rubber hitting the road there. At least I have not heard. And so why do you think with more sophisticated types of attacks and movement, why are we having such a hard time stopping those things with AI or spotting those things with AI? Is there something specific that's making that more difficult?
There's a few things. Our attackers are leveraging AI as a service as well. So they're leveraging the same kind of technology we're combating with. And AI is not 100% accurate either. I've gone through multiple layers. I've built it out. I've even built out my own AI tools. In the end, it almost seems like it's confused or giving false positives, or it's reassuring you, I know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, you can't do that in a real world scenario to business. If I told a bank, let's go to the same scenario, hey, we're going to micro-segment everything, and AI is going to get it most of the time right. They're going to be like, we're not interested.
Yeah.
Because you can't take down all of our transactions. You can't take down our customers pulling out their money. That's worth millions an hour. So that's why at Zero Networks, we took it as we're going to take automation and learn on each action and take action. And it didn't feel appropriate even while looking at it. Artificial intelligence has the pros and cons. Massive data, petabytes of data, it can summarize that. Great, it gives you an idea. It's 90% accurate. It's good enough for me to know what to do next. But when it comes to my life, do you want a car to drive and only use artificial intelligence? No, you have machine learning and automation that says, hey, that's a stop sign. I need to stop. And it has to tell you. And I know I need to stop. Instead of just kind of guessing, I think that's a stop sign. So should we go or not?
Yeah, I've seen a few videos the last few days. It seems like that may be what's going on. But so this is a really fascinating. So when we think about agents, when we're talking about, and agentic AI is really, I think, LLMs were kind of the first thing we threw at every problem, but they're really inefficient. They're not necessarily, and to your point, they're pretty prone to hallucination.
Yeah.
I don't like that term because it makes it sound like they make things up. Just to be clear,
It's
the
a fair term.
hallucination is stuff that was in the training data. We just don't know why.
Right.
So when we go to, microsegmentation is going to help stop that. So I guess we've established that AI is really not doing a great job there. Are there places where you're seeing that AI is really effective in security? Like, what's the low-hanging fruit where people are actually having success? Because I think we need good news on AI and security.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I have worked on multiple AI projects. Probably the most successful platform is, I kind of already mentioned it, is summarization. Just saying what is happening in this very complicated metrics. As you may hear today in the market, there's platformization, large groups of products being acquired by big companies and saying, hey, we can do a little of everything. The problem is now they're doing a little of everything. What is going on in my own environment? I'm buying 14 different products from this one company. So AI is kind of summarizing what is happening based on my environment. That's what it's trying to do. Now, I've seen the implementation of chat and guidance. Guidance works pretty well because you can tailor it and fine tune it based on relevant information. And generative AI does a pretty good job getting that done at this moment in time, if it's very controlled.
So guidance is more, you might want to think about looking at these things because this is a common thing that we see, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, in a cybersecurity scenario, I pull up an incident and it says, hey, based on this MITRE attack, based on other assets that were attacked, you might want to look at these assets based on my discovery, and do you want to learn more about this? And it will guide you through that process. So that part, AI does a pretty good job. Where I would like to see AI go, and this is where it gets a little more scary, is offering true capabilities of saying, okay, based on that, let's make an action, and I created this action for you.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that in the future. It's getting there. It's just not there today. So
what do you think we need? I guess, what's the ideal balance of microsegmentation? Because with AI agents, you need them to be able to touch multiple things, and sometimes you need them to be able to be adaptable. Because it is scary, right? Because I have also seen, like, we were just talking last night with one of my security friends where he's like, yeah, it definitely. The AI told me to just drop this SQL table that I was having issues with. It's like, funny. Oh, just drop the table. He's like, no, we probably shouldn't do that. So what is the ideal balance there? Is it we're using summarization, and then what's the balance between that and microsegmentation, do you think? I know this is if you could figure this out, you'd be the next billionaire.
Probably. The balance is providing information that's relevant for me as probably a network cybersecurity professional. For example, let's say I have my network security stack. Unfortunately, there's been acquisitions. I have Palo Alto's, Fortinet. Like, I have so many different products, some old Cisco's, but it was able to say, hey, based on what I understand in your environment, here's the next guidance. That's probably where it'll go next, is my suspicion. And then from there, it might say, we can inject policies into those to make your life easier. How we do it agentless. So it doesn't require configurations on a firewall level or even a Windows level. It just does it based on injection of agentless processes. So it allows you to not change your infrastructure. But I can kind of see the future of AI influencing microsegmentation going in that direction. Like, how can we make it easier for the customer's whole journey when it comes to policy management and verification through the whole entire stack, including identity. Identity is obviously a focus point.
Yeah, I just wrote an article a couple days ago covering the Palo Alto CyberArk acquisition, and I used the very cliche term that identity is the new perimeter.
Yeah,
because between remote work, contractors, agents, like we have all these different things that need access, need identities, and with agents, it's like, okay, they're making kind of probabilistic decisions. Does that make them, they're non-human, but they're not machine, because machines make binary decisions. So I don't know that anybody's really figured that out yet.
I haven't seen a perfect solution, no, but I have seen some good ideas. And I think that's kind of where a lot of things just start grabbing traction. I mean, look at all the startups. They usually have one really good idea, and then everyone kind of copies it and expands on it, then it grows. So I imagine it's probably going to happen sooner than later, but it probably, you're right, it's probably the next billion-dollar company. That's going to revolutionize how artificial intelligence is mapping appropriately.
Well, and as soon as you find a good solution, I mean, being in security, we're all kind of mischievous kids, right? So as soon as someone's like, hey, I've got this bulletproof solution, my first thing is like, all I want to do is find a way around it.
Of course.
All I want to do is, like, I was talking to a couple of my security friends last night, and they're like, yeah, we went to this party after hours, and there's a big line at the door, and the bouncer was turning people away, so we knew we had to find a way to sneak in.
Oh my goodness.
Like, they could have just waited in the line and paid the bouncer the $40, right? But they were like, no, we found a fire escape. And I'm like, this is security, people. This is why we can't bring you anywhere.
I don't think a normal person could be a security person.
No.
I mean, I've been asked on stage, like, what would you do to transform our nation, or how we should train our citizens? And I'm like, that had to be all a little crazy. Like, that's the only way I
can't give everybody autism, despite what some people think.
Because you have to like be almost a little paranoid, while at the same time being ambitious enough to take something apart and hopefully put it back together better. So,
and insanely intellectually curious, and have a hankering for good trouble. And I think that's the good trouble part is what I think makes a really good security person.
As long as it's good trouble.
Yeah. Sometimes the line's a little blurry,
like
but
skipping through a bouncer line.
So I guess last question. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up because we don't have a ton of time. I wish we had more time. But if I'm a CISO and I'm trying to figure out, as my team are bringing me all these different AI tools, what is hype and what is practical and what will actually make an impact? Like what kind of process would you use? Like what would your decision-making process look like for that? Where you're like, okay, we have zero networks, we're doing microsegmentation. How do I figure out whether this is just another AI hype tool or whether this is actually something that's going to benefit my organization?
Yeah. I'll start with the AI question. First off, any artificial intelligence platform that's using generative AI, it better explain what it's doing. So if I click, hey, give me a summarization, and it just is a black box, personally, I love the idea. Could be bulletproof, but I don't believe it. Like I still, it could give me a false positive. I don't know where to look. I can't verify. There's no audit trail. That's a red flag. I would just disconnect. Even if it's the best product and the best name on the market, I'm sorry, I don't trust it today. That's just me. As for zero networks, how the difference is I would look at it from a perspective of how is it learning and how is it impacting your business, and is it creating friction, and is it a journey that's successful? Like, can you actually do it? Or is it something that you're going to struggle on a constant, hey, I have to hire new people, new teams. It's an ongoing effort. We're not ever getting it done. And that's kind of the unfortunate part of microsegmentation is it's been known to fail or never get completed. And I would say a lot of our customers are not having that conversation. That's why we have not lost any customers. We are very proud of that, and because they continuously use us and it's learning and doing what it's supposed to do. So
you are making the rubber hit the road.
We're trying.
That's amazing. Chris Boehm, Field CTO for Zero Networks, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Live from CyberRisk TV, we are at BlackHat 2025. I'm Jackie McGuire. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the air is actually clear today, so we can all breathe. Anybody who was here yesterday, you literally could not see more than half a mile. It was insane, but we are all happy to be here at Hacker Summer Camp. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with lots more insights. If you'd like to check out more about Zero Networks, please visit securityweekly.com/BlackHat or securityweekly.com/ZeroNetworksBH.